I came into this relationship feeling like you should know. You should know when I'm upset. You should know that thing is going to bother me, right? How unrealistic is that to just think or assume that you would know all of these things about me?
The audacity. I was born for her, y'all.
Yes, for me and for me alone. And you were supposed to know all the things that make me tick.
Yeah.
All the things that make me tick.
Hey, it's Moe Ari
and Tiffany.
And you're listening to the #LoveGoals podcast. Before we get into this episode, I just want you to remember that every human, regardless of identity, needs these 3 things: belonging, authenticity, and love.
And after a decade of partnership, we've learned to co-create these things and so much more.
So from wherever you're listening, we're going to go on a journey of becoming our own #LoveGoals. Now let's get into this episode. Hey, it's Moe Ari
and Tiffany.
And we're just so excited to welcome you to this episode of the #LoveGoals podcast.
Yes, we are so excited.
So, once upon a time, Tiffany was a pregnant woman. And, you know, like most pregnant women, as they should, they have a lot of expectations about what that process is going to be like. And of course, we had challenges along the way. And so that led to disappointment. And I imagine, like, through the disappointments, the ups and downs, by the time that our child got here, she also had these expectations. Now, this is the part that I didn't know about. These expectations about how I would be in the aftermath of our child getting here.
Right.
I don't know that her story or her narrative around what I would be like incorporated what that time might be like for me.
Right.
And so I think it ended up leading to a lot of hurt, disappointment, frustration for Tiffany that she later expressed to me. And also a lot of frustration for me because I was on the receiving end of all those expectations and the disappointment from not meeting those expectations. And now me with my white cape, I'm sitting here like, I did not meet her expectations. My feelings are hurt. I've been a therapist all these years. How could I not see that she would need me in this way? And it led to one of the most difficult times in our relationship. It was a beautiful time. We have our daughter, our family, and it's growing and we feel intensely blessed. At the same time, it was one of the most difficult time periods in our life because we were having to have all of these challenging conversations and she couldn't quite get to what was coming up for her. And I couldn't quite articulate why I was so bothered. And then one day, I just was able to name the word expectation. I think it came out, though, not just as eloquently as I just said that if I do say so myself.
Y'all, it wasn't.
It came out like, you've got all these expectations of me.
Yeah.
Expectations that I didn't know that you had, that I didn't sign up for. I didn't sign a contract for. And had I known you had those expectations, 1, I might have been able to meet them. But 2, we might have been able to have a realistic conversation about what my actual capacity is.
Right.
So I said all of that to set this conversation up. You know, we're coming to you all after the baby went to sleep, after Nova is in bed. You know, this is our sexy time, but we just want to come here to talk about expectations with you all because it's really important that as people pursuing relationships, pursuing lasting partnership, love, that we think about expectations. And I'm going to let Tiffany take it away here because she had some questions for me that she brought. And I thank you so much for letting me tell that story because it's really important that they know that we've been there. We're working through this. This is real stuff. And we are just so happy y'all are here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mo, for sharing that story. I know often I could be the first one to be like, here he go again with another story that's not true. But that was a real story. I think, you know, we had a lot of challenges in our relationship as a result of the expectations that I had. And the crazy thing about it is I didn't even realize that I had these expectations, right? So you were experiencing it as me having all of these expectations of you.
Yeah.
But then when I finally got down to it, I'm like, oh, maybe I did have this expectation that I wasn't even aware of, but I was acting from. So I'm excited to dig into this because I think it will really continue to unpack some of the things that, we've been talking about over this time period as it relates to expectations. So I have a question that I want to ask you.
Fire away.
Going into this. So coming into our relationship or our marriage, whichever way you want to answer that question, did you have expectation?
Yeah.
If so, name a couple of them.
Okay, absolutely. Now, I'm not going to say I had expectations, but I want to say that your girl here, Tiff, she set me up. She set me up for failure. So she set up some expectations for me. She used to say things early in our relationship like, I just always figured I would be, she knows where I'm going. I always figured that, am I getting your voice right? I always figured that I would be the person that cooked and cleaned. And now me being the person I am, I'm like, no, there's no way I'm going to let you cook and clean and do all of that stuff. It's going to be a 50-50 kind of thing.
Yeah.
However, when we get into the relationship further and I realize that she's really not doing those things that she says she was like just figuring she would do, it burst my bubble a little bit. So I wouldn't say that I had those expectations per se, but I thought that you would enjoy them a little bit more because you set me up to think that you would enjoy them more.
Got it.
Other expectations, though, I think being a masculine person, maybe being a person with a higher sex drive, I think that my expectations around sex might have been unrealistic.
Yeah.
And so it took us having a lot of conversations about that. But I would say I definitely had expectations around like, we're going to be in this deep, committed, loving partnership and we're going to be together all of the time.
Right.
Why would most of our time not be spent physically?
Right.
Or maybe not most of it. Why would physical contact in a sexual, romantic way not be as often or more often than a single dating person or dating couple?
Right.
Yeah. So I would say that those were some expectations. Those are the things that come to mind. What about you? Answer your own question.
Well, before I answer my question, I just want to say that this so-called conversation I had about expecting to be the one to cook and clean, I don't doubt that I had the conversation, but I will again say that I feel like that conversation was based on my family or society's expectation of what a thin person in a relationship or what a wife should do in a relationship. So I probably said it from like I expect to cook or clean. Did I think I would enjoy that long term, being the only person doing that? Absolutely not. So I just wanted to say that, but I don't doubt I had that conversation. So I'm sorry for setting you up.
So it sounds like you even had expectations of yourself about what you should be doing to be in the role of wife to the best of your abilities.
Right.
You learned expectations from your family that you then kind of put on yourself. And so you were trying to live up to those expectations.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. I never considered that you had expectations you were putting on yourself.
No. I was not aware in the moment. Yeah. I can now look back and say, that's not really something I would have agreed to, without having this external expectation.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to set the expectations for what's important to you and not necessarily society, family, or wherever you get these things from early on.
Yeah. How can you be aware that you're setting expectations based on your family of origin and not what's authentic to yourself? How did you realize that?
I realized that, different expectations that I had, for instance, let's talk about after becoming parents. I expect Mo to get up equally with me when the baby's crying.
When the baby wants just her breast and not me, I should get up.
Right. Mo should get up equally with me. Mo should make sure that we have dinner because I'm caring for the baby all day long. Or
mind you, I was really good at making sure that we had dinner. So I don't want that example to ride. This is just a random example.
Right. These are just things I'm throwing out there, right?
Yeah. For the people at home. Make sure that we have food. We'll make sure that.
Right. Or any arbitrary, I feel like at that point, after having the baby, any arbitrary thing that I was like, I expected you to do that. I realized that it wasn't necessarily something I needed or wanted when you did the thing I asked for and it still didn't satisfy me.
Right.
I still was not satisfied. I'm like, but I thought that's what I wanted and I got it, but I'm still feeling like something is missing.
So that sent you to really explore what was deeper underlying there.
Right.
Okay, so did you ever feel like you figured out what it was that you really wanted? Underneath the expectations you got from family of origin, was there something underneath there that you really wanted?
Well, yes, I feel like I did figure it out.
Yeah.
Hard lesson. I don't think that I was presently aware of it in the moment, but I think ultimately I wanted my mother, It's very challenging and difficult to say that. I think that, again, expectations, not just in relationships, in family or in society.
So you wanted your mother after having had a child.
Right.
You wanted that support. Now, for context, we had a baby July 2020. So the hottest height of the pandemic. So there at the hospitals, they weren't even sure if they were going to let me into the delivery room or, to stay with her in the hospital. That's how far into the pandemic we were having a child. I wasn't even able to go to our daughter's doctor's appointment.
Right.
It was one parent. And then in the prenatal care, only my wife could go to the appointments and she would have to FaceTime me in. They were that strict.
Right.
So, at this time, we're bringing a newborn home from the hospital. Anybody that's coming in contact with this newborn at this point in the pandemic had to be quarantined for 2 weeks still. It was all of the things.
No vaccines.
There weren't any vaccines. There was none of that. And so the context is that Tiffany couldn't spend time with her mom until a little further out.
Right.
Just for the safety of our daughter and a number of other things. Everybody else. Right.
So yeah, that gives great context. So when you put it like that, I'm like, oh, that would have been very challenging to have specifically what I thought, I really needed or wanted in that moment. So to answer your question, yes, I feel like the expectation was, leading up to having a baby, particularly your first baby, you have like people around you, you have family, mom comes and stays for some time, mother-in-law or whoever else in the family that support come and stays for a while and helps out. And so
that was your expectation.
That was my expectation, not like the standard, right?
Right. Because in my family, I grew up not having majority of my grandparents. I just had my one bio grandma and of course a lot of extended grandmothers and family.
Right.
Even then, my mom comes home from the hospital. I'm an identical twin. She has 2 babies, 4 sons, a husband, and she's back at work in like 4 weeks.
Right.
With twins that she's lugging out the house in Chicago weather.
Right.
To daycare and other things. It wasn't any grandma come stay.
Right.
So that never crossed my mind. I'm saying that to say our expectations were different.
And that just goes to show how your own lived experiences and your perspective informs your expectations. Like for me, that was a given. Like everybody in my family experienced this or everyone I knew around me experienced that. So it was like, of course that's going to happen. Of course, that's what I expected.
Now I'm sitting here with the narrative that, when my mom came home from the hospital with me and my sister, my dad ended up having to care for us for a few days, a little time, because my mom ended up hemorrhaging because, having twins is a lot. And she had to go back to the hospital. So, he's changing our first poops. They're all black. But he's doing the thing. He's the father with 4 sons and they all are corralling around trying to help these 2 little kids, live while mom is in the hospital. So for me internally, it was like, a rite of passage for me to be present and take care of you. And I really wanted to do that. And all I felt like she was doing was rejecting me.
Yeah.
Like all I felt like you were doing was rejecting me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would just like to take the time and apologize because it wasn't your fault or anything you weren't or was doing that was bothering me. I had this expectation of something else that I wasn't getting. And if I really sat with it in the moment, I probably could have gotten to what exactly was the thing I wanted outside of expectation.
Yeah.
And then just even in response to your story about your dad having you all, after mom went back in the hospital, same exact thing happened to my mom when she had twins.
Wow, your dad was holding it down?
Dad was in hospital with mom. Grandma, auntie was at home with babies. I mean, so it just really shows you the
differences and how those expectations do get created by family of origin.
Right.
For me, it was my expectation for, what a father should do. Yeah. It's like, you better be holding it down. You better be able to mother a child in the absence of mom.
Right. Dad was holding it down, going back and forth, in addition to having this external grandma, auntie. I mean, his sister even came down from New York. So it was like a corralling of the village.
Yeah, we didn't have all of that. Not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah, it was plenty of family that love and support us. But when you are talking about, just two different contexts, that's another episode. Yeah. But I hear you. And also I want to go back to this apology. This is all healed. This is water under the bridge. We're just talking about this right now. I just want you to know, and for everybody at home, I am not still holding it. I am not sure why she felt the need to apologize. Maybe you want to talk about what came up.
Yeah, I just want to take accountability because I feel like, like we said in the beginning of this episode, it was a challenge in our relationship. And so I just want you to always know that as we have healed these things and talked about these things, like my heart is always with you and wanting you. And I hear you saying, I just wanted to be there and support you as a husband and as a father. Like, I'm just apologizing and receiving that.
Yeah.
You've said it before, I received it before, but in this moment, I would like to publicly receive that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I receive you receiving it. I know that I just want to hold you down.
Yeah.
And I feel like at this point you have received that with your whole heart.
Yeah.
And you've allowed me to step into the place that I need to be in our relationship. Not just wanting your mom to come take care of you. Now she does, she does show up.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense. I think I wanted my mom too. I was terrified.
I wanted mama, auntie, grandma, mother-in-law, sister, like everybody.
Yeah. We were just in a pandemic.
Right.
It was coupled with like all of that. We've been away from our family for a long time. We decided to move to Atlanta right before, like we got to Atlanta, like 2 years ago to the date, like that we're having this conversation.
And days before the shutdown. So we were in the house from 5 months till baby being out, 6 months plus?
Yeah.
It's a long year plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I know we are talking a lot about like expectations as it relates to parenting. I know another expectation I came into the relationship with, which I don't think we ever talked about, we kind of just related on, was spirituality, right? So I'm like, of course, I'm in a relationship with somebody that, has some spirituality. Maybe they go to church, we pray together. But that was an expectation I had that I think we never talked about. So I'm wondering, coming into this relationship or even transitioning to marriage or at any point, what was your expectation around spirituality?
That's a hard one. I'd be, curious. I'd really be curious for anybody listening to this to write us and share their thoughts on this. But, spirituality feels like something that's so sacred to a person's individual journey that I don't feel that I could put an expectation on that for someone. in the baseline want them to understand themselves as a soul having a human experience. And to be striving toward understanding themselves as a part of a larger whole. So a part of a oneness, a consciousness greater than themselves. But I wouldn't want to put that on them to have to believe a particular thing or stunt their evolution in a way, because we're all here learning, evolving. And if you meet someone and day one, they don't speak the same language. Can you not learn their language? Can they not be bilingual, trilingual? So I really find it hard to say I could expect someone spirituality to look like mine without them having ever known me, because I'm so unique.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're so unique.
So unique. Yeah. And so I totally agree. And I think what you even described by in the beginning of this portion, talking about people recognizing themselves as a part of a whole.
Yeah.
That is essentially what spirituality is, or what I desire or want in a person. And so I think coming in, again, having these outdated ideas of like, you know, the terms you've heard, equally yoked, or, you know, sharing, we got to go to church together, or we got to do these things together. And I realized in our relationship just how we've evolved and we've been able to co-create what spirituality looks like for the both of us. And so I've had my individual journey, you've had your individual journey, without ever talking about expectation, if I'm really honest. Like,
well, I think I don't want to imply that we never had a conversation.
Yeah.
Because what we did was witness each other.
Sure.
We did go to church together.
That's true.
We did go to secular spiritual communities together. We did go to readings together.
Yeah.
We've, you know, been to mountaintop and done rituals together and ceremonies. And, you know, we really have been intentional about exploring and just inviting each other into an adventure and the journey of evolution around that. And so it was like we didn't have expectations of one another because we were so willing to just witness for one another and explore. We didn't have the conversation, but we did have the conversation in a non-verbal way. We were just open and curious.
And that's what I was going to say. It felt non-verbal, because even if I said in the beginning of this, I had expectations as it related to spirituality, but it was an unspoken kind of thing, not even necessarily an expectation. It was just maybe this desire for curiosity, individually and then together. And like you're saying, we did a lot of that. We went to church, we prayed together, we did readings, we did rituals, we did all of the things. It continued to evolve and grow in that space. And so I think, it's really important that you and I were able to co-create without having to have a verbal conversation about spirituality, or like, I want you to pray, whatever, whatever arbitrary expectation you have for the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think expectations really can cover so many different topics, and, but I guess I'll pause trying to find other areas where we've had expectations, because we know we've probably had a bunch. You always want me to be suave and pay for stuff and smell good.
Really?
Huh?
Really?
I meet those expectations.
You always want me to smell good and look nice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But you always do.
Oh, thank you.
I got to go homeward after this podcast.
Okay.
But I guess I wanted to ask. Like, where do you think, or when do you think people should have conversations around expectations? If they're thinking about marriage or thinking about long-term committed partnership, where is it like the most pressing to have that conversation around expectations?
I mean, that's a good one. First of all, I think that whenever the thought or idea comes up, it's important to be present and lean in. So if it's before marriage and you are having questions about how you all will handle finances in your relationship, let's say, I think it's it's important to talk about it, at least when at the point where you're in some sort of commitment, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's present to you now, you go to your partner, hey babe, like how do you see us like handling funding?
What if it never comes up? You're trying to avoid giving them this direct advice and wisdom that I want you to tell them. When is it? Like you're speaking to all of the people who might identify as femme out there.
Yeah.
When is it important that you really have that conversation around what it is that you want?
I think that in any sort of commitment, we as femme people have to honor our voice. And I think this can be the challenge here because it never comes up. We'll have to talk about it. But you have real feelings or real opinions about it. And so I think as much as you can, or as much as you can, really honor what it is that you want. And when you have these conversations, realizing that expectations are one-sided, right?
Yeah.
Like we were just saying, I'm coming to a conversation and I'm saying, hey, Mo, these are my expectations. That's just from Tiffany's perspective. So even entering that conversation with the acknowledgement that this is my stuff, these are the things that I want. Also respecting that the other person coming into it has their own things, their expectations, and being willing to like co-create that. Like,
so you're saying the very beginning they should have these conversations?
The very beginning of commitment or the very beginning of talking?
I'm trying to have you talk to your sisters.
I don't think that there's a perfect formula for when to have these conversations. I will say that if there are things that feel like quote unquote deal breakers or things that are fundamental things for you in terms of expectations, those things need to be talked about as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste their time.
Yeah.
We all can evolve and grow, but I think it's important to just even get it out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would say start with the things that are fundamental, moral, like base level stuff that would be a deal breaker if you couldn't work through it, right?
Yeah.
Man, that's hard.
Yeah.
And then from there, I would say as early as possible. Like I wouldn't want to be in a marriage for 3 years and then we're talking about finances, right? Or then we're talking about, how are we gonna, talk about chores or parenting? Like, no, like we should be having these conversations before.
Right. And you bring up a really important point here that I think, I guess, said just very straight. Yeah. I don't know how any other way to be. At a point, if you don't talk about it, it stays an expectation. But the moment that you decide to talk about it, it becomes a relationship standard. Yes. A standard is something that you can actually implement into your relationship. An expectation is like setting you up for disappointment. Right. Nobody knows. Nobody can give you what you want. Didn't the Bible say, asking ye shall receive, for all the people that, read the good book? It's like, asking ye shall receive. And from a mindset standpoint or a manifestation standpoint, we really have to expect in order to be able to receive. That's one part of it, but we also have to say what we want. We have to put it out there. And that's the part that we miss. So do you really want to manifest the kind of relationship where you're able to have your needs met? Yeah. Then expectations have to become standards, and they only happen when we talk to one another.
Yes. We talk to one another and we go in with the openness. Just because you say it doesn't mean that then it automatically translates to the standard. You have a conversation, you come together, you collaborate.
It's not like I said it and so it's done. Yeah, Tiffany. No, I'm playing. Yeah. The moment that we had that conversation where I'm like, oh, wow, she has all these expectations of me and how I should be as a father when I don't even know how to do this. I've never been a father before. Right. And we started talking about it and we both were like, wow, this is what's really happening. We looked at it together. We said, okay, what if this is ridiculous? What if this is realistic? And once we were being realistic about the work we had done prior to becoming parents, because there was some work that needed to have been done in order to get the life Tiffany wanted to be living. And because we hadn't laid that foundation yet, it was like, this isn't realistic for now, but that doesn't mean I can't get us there. And so I've been really trying to work.
You have.
And Tiffany has been doing a lot of work too. To be the kind of woman that she wanted to be, that she hadn't necessarily laid the foundation for. And I'm just talking about the kind of person that you are and you are becoming, where you go for the things that you want, where you set boundaries around your time, where you practice self-care every single day. All of those things are so necessary to have balance as a mom and not be stressed out, but you weren't doing any of that stuff and you were feeling broke down. And broken open all the time.
Yes. And I think at the heart of it was whether or not I was using my voice, whether or not I was vocalizing to you as my partner, this is my expectation. We could talk about it, but I wasn't even saying it. Or, I can't really do that. Was I communicating the boundary in this relationship or other relationships? You know, it is so important. You know, I was reading this thing on Instagram the other day that said, things that are left unsaid are just that, unsaid. We come to the table with like so many different life experiences. It's not fair for me to just assume that you will understand all of the intricacies of my mind and my experiences without ever saying it.
Absolutely.
And I'm guilty of feeling like, well, you should know, right?
You should know.
You should know, but it's very unfair if you really think about it. So something very crucial in me arriving at the point or continuing to become with incorporating self-care, with setting boundaries, is using my voice.
Using your voice.
Using my voice. And it's not easy.
It's not
I be starting to cough when I'm trying to talk or have a conversation. My throat getting all tight and stuff. But using my voice and using, I would say, to any femme person, because I think it can be particularly challenging to just kind of stand in your voice sometimes and say, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is how I want it to be. So I just encourage you.
And usually it's not the other person. So it's not Mo stopping you from using your voice. Or it's not Mo.
Exactly.
It's like every time she tells me she wants something, I show up and I'm like, yes, it is my duty to give it to her.
That's true.
Your wish is my command. But she has to ask for it. She has to rub the lip a couple times. Wink, wink.
Just one time.
Don't try to do me like that. I am not that here.
Okay.
Rub the lamp. Genie awakens.
Okay.
Your wish is my command.
But
she had to ask.
Right. And a lot of it is like this perceived, oh, they're not going to get it. Oh, they're not going to understand. Oh, they don't really care. But the truth of the matter is that do you really fully believe what you're trying to communicate? Do you feel confident in setting the boundary you need to set? And so that is something I'm constantly working on.
And that's probably why we often, as people, hide behind our expectations, because we don't want to do the hard work of leaning in, being vulnerable, saying, I need this thing. So we get to say, well, my expectation wasn't met, because we know that we'd have to do the vulnerable work and really lean into vulnerability and say, hey, may I have X? And we face possible rejection in doing that. And, you know, there's so much rejection, fear, and sensitivity, I think, within our society, our culture. I've experienced it too. I've talked a lot about it as well. But it's an extreme barrier to our authenticity. We're so worried of being rejected that we don't show up as our authentic selves. And a large part of being authentic is sharing your voice. It's sharing your truth at all times. Letting your yes mean yes, letting your no mean no. So I think what is potentially happening behind that, not sharing your voice, or the constant expectations and hiding behind the expectations, instead of having the conversations to put standards in place, is this fear of being vulnerable. Who am I?
Fear.
Who are you without your expectation? Could you have what you actually want? Does that scare you? If you told that person that you've been meaning to say that thing to, whatever it is, are you afraid of getting what it is that you want? Either being left alone or being pulled closer.
Exactly. And that's what we have to get real about, because I think even if it's something that's positive, we are scared. We have fears around that. Like, what if I get that thing, that the success that I really want, or that relationship I really want? It could be scary, right?
Yeah.
Because the vulnerability piece, right?
Yeah.
Leaning into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful. I love, something that you've taught me, because I think you're a deeply blessed person. I think that you just attract all kinds of positivity to you. So something that you've taught me in your practice around joy and gratitude is to be expectant, but it's a different kind of expectation. It is the kind of expectation, is a knowing and a confidence that I can have what I want if I ask for it. So it's not passive expectation.
Right.
It's the kind of expectancy that is almost like an act of faith that propels someone to ask for what they want and believe that they can have it, because that belief is what allows someone to actually lean into the vulnerability. If you know you can have something because you're that expectant, it's nothing that's going to stop you from asking for what you want. Look at kids. If they want some candy, they're either going to our doctor. If she wants something, she went and took it because she expects that it's hers. And so if we can get that kind of energy and that expectancy inside of our hearts, in our relationships, it's this vulnerability. If we can get that together, I really think that we can really have the kinds of relationships we really want.
Yes, absolutely. I want the level of courage that our daughter has to go grab your phone and say mine and walk away with it like she knows that it's hers. Because she's going into it with so much expectation. I'm getting this because it's mine and I know I can have it. Knowing good and well she can.
Now, I would like it if she asked.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we're trying to help people have the kind of expectation where you know, and then you ask.
Yeah.
And,
that's the important piece.
You have but to ask.
Right.
Now, she has but to take. She's not quite there yet because she's less than 2.
Right.
So we give her some time.
And that asking part is so important. I've seen how it has manifested in my life when I don't ask, right? So if I don't ask for the thing I want, I don't communicate my expectation, resentment, anger, all of these things fester.
Ooh, we're going to have an episode on bridges.
And settle in, right? Because, I was talking recently, like, you are expressing all of these things you want, right? You openly are like, I want this. This is my expectation. Well, I perceive you as being open. You probably feel like you don't even share as often as I think you do. And I'm like, upset with you that you are just openly sharing. You ain't stopping me now. I'm stopping myself from sharing. But then I'm resentful, right? I'm angry that you're communicating these things and I'm not able to share my voice. And so sharing your voice is important for the relationship, but also so that you're not carrying around that icky stuff inside, that resentment, that anger, because it's like an infection almost.
And so often the other person wants to give you every single thing that your heart desires, and they are so unaware.
Yes.
And you could think, I told them they have to know, but they have no idea. Because they are not in your body. They don't know what that feels like. They don't know what the emotions do to you. They don't know what it feels like internally inside of your body every day to see that thing or that expectation or that need not be met.
And that's the biggest thing that I feel like I've had to learn. I came into this relationship feeling like you should know. You should know when I'm upset. You should know that thing is going to bother me, right? How unrealistic is that to just think or assume that you would know all of these things about me?
The audacity. I was born for her, y'all.
Yes, for me and for me alone. And you were supposed to know all the things that make me tick.
Yeah.
All the things that make me happy.
Isn't that all of the messages we get about soulmates?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, we were clear, we're soulmates.
Right.
We came to teach each other some valuable lessons. That's what that means to us.
Right.
And the messaging we get in society about soulmates has us thinking that that person is going to be ready-made, that the relationship is going to be easy. So you can have all these expectations and they're just going to be met without conversation, without hard work. And that's why we wanted to make this podcast.
Right.
Hashtag love goals.
Yeah.
So that we could start to create our own standards for our relationships and be our own love goals.
Be our own goals, right.
You don't have to look at any other relationship. You don't have to look at any standard set in society. You get to decide what your relationship is going to look like between you and whoever it is that you're in love with.
Yeah.
However many people, you get to decide what that relationship looks like.
Mm-hmm.
We get so many messages about what a soulmate is supposed to feel like that can make us feel deficit if we don't have it. Right. Oh my God, are we soulmates because now we have to do work and he doesn't anticipate every single one of my needs?
Exactly.
I have to ask for stuff. Are we not compatible? Does he not see me? Does he not love me? That's an expectation that's been put in place by society. And that's exactly why we're here having this conversation.
Exactly. You're so right. And I think in the context of romantic relationships, friendships, parent and child relationships, it all matters. It all matters where, you talk about these things, you talk about the expectations. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
All the goals, love goals in every sense of the word, right?
Love goals, hashtag. So,
hashtag.
I think that's really rounding out our episode here. I'm so glad. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Definitely email us, reach out to us on social media.
Right.
Let us know what you think about this conversation. We're so curious for you all to join in on this dialogue, and we'll be as active as we can in responding to your questions. If you have questions for future episodes, definitely send them our way.
Mm-hmm.
Any parting wisdom, Tiffany? Any parting wisdom for all the other empresses out there, emperors, and, people just starting their village and their tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are looking for long-term committed relationship, people who have all kinds of love in their life. Any wisdom on expectations? This could be expectations of your parents and who they could be. That's a whole episode. But just give us your parting words of wisdom, Empress Tiffany, on expectations.
Yeah. So I will say that it is okay to have expectations, right? It is okay to have expectations. With having those expectations, you have to share it with the other person that you're in relationship with or other people you're in relationship with.
Yeah.
It's okay to have it. Let's have the conversation.
Yeah.
Also, when you have that conversation, really sit with whether the expectation you went in with is something that is important to you, or you took it from family of origin, or you took it from society.
Yeah.
It's okay to have the expectation. Be present with whether that is something you truly want.
Yeah.
And vocalize that. Use your voice. The person you're in relationship with is there for a reason. The people you're in relationship with are there for a reason. They want to hear. They want to know. We go in with this expectancy, right? That they're going to be curious. They desire to be in relationship with you. We can use that voice. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
And then have those collaborative conversations and make those expectations into relationship standards. The collaboration, the discussion, really put your heads together and co-create.
Right. Exactly.
Co-create the relationship that you want to have together.
Right.
So that concludes our episode. We're going to peace out because, this is our after dark time. This is our time after our daughter is asleep. We huddle up and we just love on one another.
After the baby goes to bed, right?
Right. After dark. So this has been hashtag Love Goals with Moe Ari and
Tiffany.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.
See ya. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
If you want your question featured in an upcoming episode of the hashtag Love Goals podcast, go ahead and send your question to lovegoalspodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website at lovegoalspodcast.com and follow us on Instagram at lovegoalspodcast. We look forward to hearing from you soon.